Thank you for the conversation earlier on the content optimization. I really enjoyed it because that's exactly what we're going to discuss today. So, firstly, greetings from Singapore. I'm Kayley. I am representing Titan Digital Media. We are a media agency and a content creation agency based in Singapore with a very strong global reach. And in fact, myself, and my team just flew in a few hours ago because we're really excited for this conference to not only share with you some insights that are happening in Southeast Asia, but also to learn from you guys on things that are happening outside of Southeast Asia and also adapting to it as well. Yeah, so today we're gonna be talking about content and how we can get real with content. So, now, you can see that the slide here, it's very colorful, it's very youth-oriented because Titan Digital Media, we are a youth-oriented media and entertainment agency. Our primary target audience is actually the youths aged 18 to 34, and we also have Gen Zs aged 18 and below. What we've noticed being in the business for around 15 years is that this audience, this group of primary and secondary target audiences have a big impact on the way we consume media and thereby affecting how brands are starting to engage with content creators and engaging with the platforms for advertising. So a little bit about us. We focus on 3 key verticals. We are a content and entertainment production house where we produce a lot of online series and franchises distributed on platforms such as YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And later we'll be deep diving a little bit on how we optimize content on each platform for the brands that we work with as well. We are also a global talent network. We manage over 500 content creators across Southeast Asia and beyond that as well. I'll also be sharing a little bit about how we incubate the next generation of content creators by understanding their niche, understanding their audiences, and scaling them beyond the audience that they are reaching today. And with the visibility of those 2 key pillars, we have converted it in a way that we are supporting brands to amplify their digital presence online. So here again, Titan is one of the largest YouTube MCNs based in Singapore. We have over 20 YouTube channels with a very strong global reach and reaching over 100 million organic views per month. And 100 million, maybe on a global scale, you might think it's not too much, but Singapore, we have 5 million people. So it's a pretty small country, but we prioritize on the organic reach on a global level. We reach markets, again, within Southeast Asia, in the US, Europe as well. We focus a lot on content storytelling across YouTube's platforms and focusing on long-form content. To date, one of our YouTube channels, one of the leading YouTube channels in Singapore, in fact, has reached over 1 billion cumulative views to date. Yes, and focusing on content creation again, we focus on incubating the next generation of content creators. In fact, we work with the local government in Singapore to incubate and see what kind of content creators we can scale beyond Singapore. And it's exciting for us because while we are a relatively young company, we have returning customers on a yearly basis. We help them with digital amplification, and what's important is that they are retainers with us for a long term. They work with our influencers, they work with our content creators, and they also work with our channels on a long-term basis. And the reason why they would do that, there are 2 key things. We focus on engagement and retention as well. Audience engagement is important because it enables content to be further amplified on the platform. For example, our content creators achieve 3 times as much as the global average when it comes to engagement. And viewer retention is something that amplifies the virality of content. If it reaches a certain benchmark on a certain watch time, they introduce it to new audiences, and that's the algorithm of virality. So our content, we prioritize on storytelling through short form and long form and making sure that people watch from end to end. So a little bit about me. I'm from Singapore. I manage Titan Digital Media's business, and I also create content with my family. TikTok is a huge thing right now. So during COVID, I made some content with my family. Blew up. It was really fun. I also used it as a point to work with brands as well. But going back to the business, I think there's no denying that we are in a video-first marketing world. A lot of brands are adapting to video marketing to, of course, shorten the loop on conversions. You have higher loyalty because you're able to convey messages more effectively. And you have an edge over competitors because while they're reliant on only traditional marketing, you're kind of adapting to a 360 marketing technique. And the emotional aspect of it, which was discussed earlier, it's important to understand what your audiences want to see. So understanding the audience sentiments is a very important factor to be successful on the platforms and to grow, more importantly, organically. Okay, so this slide looks a little funny right now. It doesn't look like what I've submitted. But the key things to take away is that monetization opportunities is massive on short-form platforms. For example, for TikTok, they've introduced factors such as in-feed advertising, where brands can basically pay for like a TikTok video to force you to watch it. And it is kind of plugged into the platform so much it looks like it's a native ad. People can't tell whether it's organic or whether it's paid. So that helps with also garnering that kind of organic feel to it. Higher engagement, because for short-form platforms in particular, we're looking at around maybe 30 to 60 seconds on TikTok, IG Reels, or on YouTube Shorts. So the longer someone watches it, the further it's amplified. It's mobile friendly. I mean, everyone has a phone. You want to share memes to your friends, POVs, funny videos to your friends, and all of that contributes to the growth speed of content. So going back to the YouTube content that we create, we see a great deal of repurposing long-form content into short-form content. So I'm challenging the previous conversation on repurposing content. It depends, again, on each platform and what people want to see. But from our perspective, since you have a long-form content already, why not chop it up and not waste that manpower to create additional content? Of course, you have to understand what the slices of content, how it appeals to the new audiences on the platforms. But what we're trying to say is utilize the long-form content that you have already. Take slices of it because audiences might find little bits of it interesting and test it out on different platforms. There isn't really like a true and tested way of what does and doesn't work. A lot of this is experimental, so we have to be willing to experiment and kind of fail with it, and that's how we learn. And short-form videos, it's very important. Yes, of course, it's attention-grabbing, higher shareability again. It is cost and time efficient because all you need to do is use your phone. And your phone can create $1 million worth of content, and it's amazing. It's just like a one-man show. Everything is built into TikTok, IG Reels, and YouTube Shorts to make content that you need to. So some examples of how we've worked with our brands. This was with Disney Plus with the launch of the OTT platform in Singapore, where we experimented with an omni-channel platform strategy. We used YouTube as a way to convert people and edutain people. Since it's longer in nature, we use the platform to educate people and drive a sense of relatability. So with a 10 to 15 minute long video, what we did was to create a video titled Types of People Watching Disney Plus. So it effectively hit the target audience that Disney wanted, which was 18 to 34, and covered the different types of audiences within that age range that would watch Disney Plus. We used Instagram as a platform to encourage loyalty and for influencers to kind of target their own consumer base. For example, we engaged with influencers who talked about their childhood stories and why they love some certain Disney shows that are broadcasted on the OTT platform today. And for TikTok, yes, it is something that's focused on UGC. We love user-generated content. So what we actually did was to have some content creators to start the trend of dressing up as their favorite Disney characters. And slowly, people kind of caught up to that trend. They're like, I want to do that too. It's all over my FYP For You page. And they're like, okay, I want to do that too. So different platforms have a different taste and different sentiment towards it. I think we just have to be hypersensitive and understand where our audiences lie in that. Now we go into something that's a little bit smaller scale, of course, not Disney Plus, but it's actually an SME, a small company based in Singapore. They offer a lot of Flash courses, and they've spent a lot of money on Facebook ads, and they have complained to us that leads generation has been very poor. What they want is for people to sign up for their courses. but so far it was not effective. So our way of doing it was to do a long-form way of storytelling where we activated influencers to be lash tags for a day. It was a comedic video, and more importantly, it engaged with audiences to let them know what are the impacts of being a lash tag, and also kind of edutaining while entertaining them at the same time. What we noticed is that from viewership to signups, it was a 3% conversion rate. And while that number seems small, the video actually reached very strong viewership. So that small business was booked out for a month. Another thing that we have done is it's not only selling things that we utilize social media for behavioral changes. This was a project that we worked with the local government in Singapore to encourage students to be more empathetic towards disadvantaged students. And how we did that was to comment analysis and sentiment analysis where we interacted with them. So social media campaigns, it's not only just about numbers, the qualitative aspect of it, but it's also the qualitative aspect to understand social sentiments. If the comments are geared towards more of the positive, neutral, or negative, then we kind of adjust our content based on that. And a very exciting project that we worked on recently was podcasts. Podcasts is something that is kind of overlooked. And a lot of people think, the Gen Zs don't want to listen to podcasts, it's super long, which is true to a certain point. They like short clips. They like things that are fast. So what we actually did was to film a long podcast on a very controversial topic in Singapore, which is chewing gum. If you guys know, Singapore, you're not allowed to chew chewing gum or else you get fined. So we kind of covered that topic by inviting a minister of communication to kind of talk about it. We clipped up some really short clips, put it on YouTube. We put it on TikTok as well, of course, understanding and repurposing the content. Like, for example, on TikTok, something that's more comedic. On YouTube, we just uploaded the full length of the podcast because people are on YouTube to watch long form. And we also worked with other creators across Southeast Asia to do a lot of brand advertising and entering new markets. Because we don't only expect that, let's say, our Singaporean creators can reach the Philippines, for example. For this project, we worked with other Philippines KOLs, like Alodia, like a gaming influencer. So it's good to be connected around Southeast Asia and also connected globally and to work with the influencers on a larger scale. Yes, and social media allows you to be yourself. It allows you to make content that is organic. And going back to maybe the previous conversation of how influencers are paid a lot, and so it's not organic, I think it all depends on selecting the right influencer for your engagement. It's subjective. I think it's important because the market today is very saturated. And there isn't really a benchmark in terms of the cost that they would charge, but understanding the input that they would give and having a solid plan from them would really help the flow of the working process. Yeah, and what we have noticed is working with the youths, especially with those audiences, what they want to do is they want to be seen and they want to be heard. They want to turn to the internet for meaningful content. They appreciate values such as authenticity, diversity, inclusivity, and they always look for rich and immersive experiences in the content that they watch. So right now we're going to talk a little bit about content and of course differentiating the platforms. So as a brand, as a content creator, or as a marketer, I think it's good to ask ourselves first, do we want to edutain or do we want to entertain? If we want to edutain, it will take a longer time to convert people's behavioral mindsets. We do that through YouTube, a longer form video where we combine it with storytelling. And to entertain, through short clips, we can look at new audiences such as those on TikTok, IG Reels, and also YouTube Shorts. So different platforms have a kind of a different take to the content, but overall, what we observe is for TikTok, it's one of the fastest growing platforms for short form content, and audience retention is something that is very important when it comes to virality. So working closely with the TikTok team, what we understand is if a video has reached almost 60 to 80% of the watch time, they will plug it into new audiences. And if the new audiences follow that similar watch time, they'll plug into new audiences again. So it's more of like an exponential growth when it comes to virality. IG Reels, on the other hand, is not so different from IG as a platform, which is very aesthetic in nature. So if you flip through most of your IG Reels, it's beautiful videos, which helps very much for brands in terms of brand building. And for YouTube Shorts, it's a relatively new one. What we have observed is that audience targeting is not as strong as the other platforms, but it is very strong if you're engaging with YouTubers who are making long-form content there, because short-form content on YouTube Shorts can actually garner new audiences into the long-form platform. And if there are any content creators in this room, I think what we recommend in terms of growth is really just to start doing it. Start doing content, pay attention to trends. In fact, in Singapore, I think we heard the statistic that it's like Gen Zs are spending around like 6 hours a day to flip content on TikTok. I do that too, which is a lot of time. But being on the platform makes you understand it best. Get good at what you're doing, experiment with what works. If a piece of content goes viral organically, kind of dissect it. Is it the watch time? Is it the audio? Is it the trend that is working? And replicate that success. Keep testing it if it works. And lastly, integrating that organic content. It's just that Gen Zs and younger millennials nowadays, they just want to see something that is more natural and more organic to the eyes. And just a short note about virality here. Working in a media agency, a lot of brands ask us, how do you create viral videos? And we tell them, there is no way to orchestrate virality. If you want a viral video, it's not possible. So a lot of brands turn to paying, media buying, to make sure that videos reach a lot of viewership, impressions, engagements. But there are two aspects that we see, and based on experience, can contribute to virality, but it's not promised. Again, it's on content and on creators. So on content, it's important, again, to be on the platform, but to see what are the upcoming trends, maybe a month and 2 months in advance. For example, for Squid Game, when the whole series on Netflix was about to be launched, we kind of kept tabs on it, and we knew that it was going to be big. So we started making content first, and eventually, when it got big, we were there at the right time already. When people searched for it on YouTube, the content was there. So it's always good to be prepared in advance. So some tips on how to get views. Yes, write on relevant trends. Don't be afraid to fail. Do some things like, yes, dance challenges. Can be cringy at times, but you can get the younger influencers to do it for you, especially for brands. Can talk about organic content like daily vlogs. You can review products, service experiences in more of an organic manner, rather than something that has very high production value. All you need is just a phone. And how to get views, this is very dependent on each platform again, but what's consistent throughout is to be consistent with uploads. For YouTube, if you are a content creator starting a channel, we recommend around 1 to 2 videos a week. On TikTok, in order to grow, it's around 3 postings a day. It's a lot. That's a lot. And for IG, we can keep it at the same momentum as the post, which is around three a week. And again, repurposing the content for a lot of brands and a lot of marketers. I mean, it's ideal to create content for each platform, but that's the perfect world. Sometimes we don't have the time or we don't have the manpower to do so. So you can take your content and strategically kind of repurpose it across different platforms. It's something that works as well. And to be prepared with challenges. I mean, in the media industry, things are changing so fast. What's trending today on TikTok or whatever, it's not going to be relevant maybe tomorrow. So it's always important to be understanding what's happening on the next few weeks in terms of trends, and to be prepared for online criticism. I mean, it's something that cannot be controlled too much, if we're especially for making organic content, and be ready for strong competition, because brands are all kind of adapting to the organic factor of social media today. And Titan is, again, based in Singapore, but we have a very strong global reach. And if you guys are looking for some support in terms of content optimization, working with talents across Southeast Asia, or looking for brands to be introduced into this market, we'll be happy to reach out to you guys on it. Thank you. I think I'm a bit short on time. If you guys have any questions or comments, happy to chat with you.
Gen Z, and you said 18 to
Yeah.
34. My voice might be loud enough. Scottish. I'll do this for sake of works. Can't even switch it on. I'll just keep talking loudly.
I can hear you well.
Okay, I was a teacher. Okay, so can you see? So for me, I'm a publisher, and so my audience are usually 35 plus. Although I do have authors. Oops, too loud now. Authors aged 9 and 12, and
Yeah.
you know we do have some young authors. What advice would you say to someone like me whose target market is different? Because I'm seeing that some of what you've put up there today is relevant irrespective of the age. I know you're really targeting, but I would just like to see how much do you believe there is a crossover into other age groups?
Understand. Thank you for the question. It's our agency that focuses on the youth audience. So our primary audience, again, is 18 to 34, and the secondary is 18 and below. However, what we see in the Southeast Asian landscape is that actually 40 and above, there's really, really high penetration on social media as well. And they consume content a little differently, not so much based on short form content, but they appreciate longer and more meaningful content. So that would be, yes, YouTube videos, even podcasts, because they like to take the time to better understand the values and what's communicated throughout. So I would say that it depends on the format of the content, and to experiment with something that is edutainment based, that is long form content.
I know in the world of publishing, book talk, you know, and on Instagram as well. So that's how I'm saying there is a cross across the age ranges.
Yeah.
But I suppose it's back to knowing your brand audience absolutely intimately. So therefore, you can see how do you need to make those adjustments in order to then use those platforms. Thanks very much anyway. Yeah, thank you for your answer. Thanks.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Michelle Raymond. I put out a lot of content on LinkedIn, and I find, obviously, my audience is slightly older than 30, but I find that when I put content about, you know, leadership, really strong and credible information around leadership with corporate leaders, I don't get as much views or engagement or likes, but when I talk about my personal life, it goes viral and everybody wants to know what's happening in my house, in my home, and where am I flying to next. So how do I get that level of engagement and excitement into things that really do matter?
Thank you for that question. May I ask you which platform you are
LinkedIn.
On LinkedIn?
Yeah.
LinkedIn, got it. From our perspective, we don't really focus on LinkedIn marketing, but we are aware of the trends there. Of course, it's geared to something that's more professional, and what we've seen is, of course, focused on it's very content specific on LinkedIn. What we would encourage what is the objective of?
So the objective is I want to share some relevant, credible information that's going to change the lives of emerging leaders. Yes, they like it, and sometimes they may make a comment, but I notice when I put out a post which is probably a bit more personable, a bit more vulnerable, showing where I've messed up on something, that's where I get a lot of engagement and lots of shares, and then people get in my inbox. So I'm thinking, is there something about putting a level of vulnerability in my leadership posts? Probably that's the missing link.
Yeah, for sure. I think that actually goes across not only LinkedIn, like what you've experienced, but across all the other platforms, Instagram, TikTok, and even on YouTube. What we notice is that for scripted content, it is non-comparable to organic vlogs, even let's say on YouTube when it comes to viewer retention, because people want to see a story, people want to see what is unexpected rather than understanding that there is a start and end to a story or kind of a closing to it. They want to see a continuation, they want to see relatability, and they also want to see challenges that other people face. So I think the secret into engaging audiences, even on very tough concepts like that, is relatability, and also creating organic content across all platforms.
Hi, my name is Faye Abrihan. I'm from the Philippines. I'm also part of a media collective, but we do more of on-ground activation and publications. But I just wanted to ask, from your experience with Titan, I like that you mentioned edutain and entertain. How was the process of getting to, because I know and I understand that definitely entertainment will get you the views, and of course, get you the eyes on what you're trying to produce. But
Yeah.
how was it moving into the educational part of it? Were there any challenges to sort of get the audience to the educational part aside from being entertaining?
Yeah, thank you for your question. Based on our experiences, I think we don't shy away from such challenges, and we have to remain very adaptable to the media landscape. Let's say we started off as YouTubers. This entire content creation house was started from a few YouTubers, and we eventually scaled it into a media agency. So long form is something that is kind of in our blood. But with the changes in consumption habits, short form is something that we have to adapt to. So what we have kind of used it as is a lead generation for new audiences, and then we retarget them back to long-form video where edutainment still happens. We have experimented with trying to convey difficult messages through short-form content, and based on our experience, it's really, really hard. It's tough, and the recall is really poor. And how we know that is through, let's say, we are working with HR agency in Singapore, where we have to track number of signups, and the brand specifically wants a TikTok video. It is difficult to convert that. So normally what we do is to encourage a long-form video in addition to a short-form video. And it's more of an omni-channel strategy rather than, because short-form content works today, that's the only thing we're going to. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rob Curlio from Trust IT. I'm based in Pisa, and a lot of my projects have to do with the European Commission. So I was very interested to see that you did a couple of projects also for governments. But I'm interested to know more, what was your experience maybe pitching these ideas to them? Sometimes, working for government accounts, the tone tends to be a lot more formal. And so I was just wondering, how was the campaign that you ran for them? Was it more along that lines, or did you make it a little bit more, let's say, engaging for the young audiences?
Yeah, thank you for that question. It's very government specific. So we have a lot of experience working with the local government in Singapore, and contrary to popular belief, where people think maybe it's very restrictive because the country is very strict and maybe traditional, they have been very responsive towards digital media and experimenting with it. It also, based on observations and understanding the stats of the youths in Singapore, it's something that's unavoidable because stats prove everything, that it's kind of shifting towards new media and it cannot be avoided. So when we discuss or work with the local government, it's all factual based, and it's for them to also take a chance on the content that we have. Sometimes I do sense a slight resistance, as with brands as well, not only of course the local government, but it is a new space and it can be very expensive, but we have to make sure that we are credible with the content that we have, and the money that they pay and they eventually get out of it with the engagements that they have or whatever KPIs they're kind of setting for it. Thank you. Okay.
Hello. Um, Actually, I also follow your company, Titan.
Oh,
So
you.
I have a questions. I work for the company. My company is the Creative Labs, and also serving the digital marketing. So I have a challenge from a client that in my country, your friendly neighborhood country, Indonesia.
Oh, lovely.
The my client is divided into two point of view. The first one is the influencer's believer, and the other is they don't believe on the influencers because they think that it doesn't matter. I mean, like, what if what is your product and what's the quality, and as long as you pay the influencer and they will say like good thing about your product, even though your product is not really that good, right? Yeah. So I'm wondering if you have any tips on how to create UGC content that, you know, how do we maintain the authenticity of the UGC content versus the influencers, you know, role on this campaign? I don't know. I think because that's the question that I have in my head, okay. Or maybe you, or maybe somebody else in every one of you guys have these thoughts. I will be happy to listen. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. So I'm going to address your question in maybe in two parts. The first part is still to how to pitch influencer marketing to those who are a little bit more traditional or resistant, and secondly, how to activate user-generated campaigns. First one on influencer marketing. We understand the resistance towards it because today the market is way too saturated. You can literally buy views, you can buy engagements, you can buy comments. Nothing looks very authentic nowadays. But understanding the past engagements that they have done. So working very closely with the influencer management teams, the companies and agencies, and also understanding their past campaigns, because numbers, at the end of the day, do not lie. So it's important to understand from them what are the qualitative and also the quantitative feedback from their content. Doing comment analysis is something that we do quite a bit. We have actually invested into qualitative sentiments and analytical tools. So it's not only numbers that are showing the impact of the influencer, but the comments as well. So what I suggest on the first part, again, is to pick up the best case studies of the highest conversion rates. And again, a lot of this impact cannot be promised. But you have to work closely with the social media influencer on the content plan, and also to work closely with them to plug in the messages that you want. And secondly, on the UGC portion, from an agency perspective, it's actually very complex to start to get people on the platform to get into a trend. It almost has to go so organically that it's weaved in and people just want to get onto it because it's hype, right? It's popular to do it. So in order to get something to be considered popular, you got to work with some influencers. You got to work with some at least key figures or relevant trends that people who are scrolling on content or those who are targeting for UGCs to find interesting to go into. Yeah. I hope that answers the question.
All right, I would have one more question. I assume we have quite a few marketing service providers sitting here today, and your recommendations on what to do on the short form platforms were very broad, so follow the trends, do the dances, and do you have like a best practice for, let's say, a B2B service provider? Let's assume we're a lot of marketing agencies here, to funnel those users who are very top funnel, very, very broad, into, well, whatever our conversion goal is. For example, short form to long form to landing page, or do you have any best practice you could recommend to someone who's not selling a trendy product?
Yeah. For something that is so targeted, I do objectively feel that it is difficult to just rely on organic content or just pay influencers to help you do that. Right now, based on the three platforms, let's say Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, it's actually YouTube and TikTok that have very advanced targeting tools. For TikTok nowadays, you can actually boost your content with a specific target audience. They have full visibility on how much is being spent on, how much is spent per user, and you can compare it to the market average as well. So there's transparency on how well your post is doing in comparison to other campaigns. And YouTube as well. You're able to lock in based on even details like religion, like age, preferences. So you can really go into the micro details with the targeting tools nowadays. Yeah.
I'm sorry? And if you would, as a brand or as a marketing provider yourself, try to build a relevant account yourself. So my question was more focused on, if I, for example, as an SEO agency, do like TikTok or short form content, how would you recommend to someone like me to create a funnel to make actual use out of those users that I reach? So let's say I do SEO content, I don't get views. Let's say I do trend content, I get a lot of views. And
how do you convert them into?
exactly. So would you say I should do an evergreen long form video on YouTube, convert them in there, and then convert them into my landing page? So something like that. Do you have experience in that? What you could recommend to us?
I think the closest example I can share with you maybe is, again, let's say on the signups of a certain activation that we have done in Singapore was to encourage people to become like policemen. So the local government wanted to kind of encourage more applicants in that space. What we kind of tracked it with are through links on different platforms. We put it through the YouTube captions, we put it on TikTok as well. So the links are a trackable device for us. But beyond that, I don't think there is really a true answer to how we can track that. Apologize if I didn't answer your question.
It's okay. It wasn't about the tracking, rather about how would you recommend approaching this? So
Okay. Okay, maybe we can chat about this after. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, before I come, I want to ask something. So for an example, as a viewer, I'm kind of bored seeing the same trends, same dances. It's not my thing. So what for like content creator as you are, like you do the same trends and all, how would a person stand out? Because I don't want to see the same, I'm so sorry to use the word lame, same trends, same dances over and over again. It gets kind of boring for a person. So if you want to do the trend, as you said, because that's what gets you views and followers, and then stand out, what is your like one key that you would do to just stand out a bit?
Okay, so this is more advice for content creators, right? It's to find a brand voice that resonates with your audiences. I mean, dances don't work for everyone. Doing organic, like POVs, comedic content doesn't work for everyone, but it's worth experimenting with. There are multiple verticals across digital platforms that you can try out. There isn't really a way to say, oh, because this is trending, you should do it. But it's really, I would say, trial and error to make it happen. Thank you. Thank you.